You want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You can't handle the truth!
Well, we're giving you the Michigan Sports Truth, the show that reveals facts, truth, research, and statistics and never messes around. With your hosts, Taylor Phillips, Ed Smith, Frank Vashner, and Buck Geno. We lay down the entire truth about everything regarding your Detroit and Michigan sports teams, no matter how uncomfortable they may be. No junk, no entertainment, no homerism, no coddling, no pop culture, no opinions, no shilling, and no fluff. Follow me, Taylor Phillips, on Twitter at DT2Phillips with 2 L's. Follow Ed Smith on Twitter at EdSmith313. Follow Frank Vashner at Frank_Vashner, VAJCNER. And follow Buck Geno on Twitter at BuckGeno3rd. Also like our Facebook page, The Michigan Sports Truth, and join our Facebook group with the same name. The hosts of the Michigan Sports Truth podcast do not take any suggestions or criticism from any member of its audience on how it should be run. It is up to the host to decide what they want to cover. They also do not intend to be any amount of popular in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Additionally, the views of the audience, right or wrong, do not reflect the actual truth revealed on this program.
Episode 295 of the Weekend Review on the Michigan Sports Truth on Spreaker, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio is in session. Taylor Phillips and Buck Geno going to recap Lions and Bears from Ford Field, Saturday Night Football on NFL Network. Also, Michigan Wolverines and Texas Longhorns, the Pistons and the Red Wings. Also going to talk about Dennis Cholowski getting cut from Team Canada. Also going to talk about the Griffins dropping to last place. And the Tigers trading Ian Kinsler and selecting Victor Reyes from the Arizona Diamondbacks in the Rule 5 draft. Plus, we got the What's Your Grade segment, but no 5-question segment, guys. Sorry about that, but let's recap some Lions here.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Lions double up the Chicago Bears 20-10. They hold them to 3 points for most of the game. The Bears finally get a touchdown in the end, but the Lions defense took advantage. They were just they got almost an easy win, but they were playing the Bears, who are the worst, by far the worst team in the NFC Nuke North. And looking at next week's schedule, they got the Cincinnati Bengals. In other words, as your name tree would put it, the Bungles, Sunday at 1 on Fox. Another winnable game for the Lions after Marvin Lewis re-signed as head coach of the Bengals.
Well, being a Bears fan, it wasn't really hard to watch this game because the outcome really wasn't in doubt. But if you're a Lions fan, because that's what we do here, we talk about Michigan sports. It was the rare opportunity for me to watch my favorite team. And also be able to comment on the Lions. I think that when you watch the Chicago Bears, the one thing that the Lions knew that they were going to try to do was run the football. Jordan Howard, even though he's on a terrible team, they know that they can go to him. So the Lions geared their game plan up a little bit, and then the Bears kind of threw a changeup. They had Mitch Trubisky throw the ball 46 times, and the Lions picked him off 3 of those times. And that's going to happen when you have a young quarterback that is really trying to basically learn on the job. And I think for the Lions that they did just enough to win this game. Offensively, I thought they struggled a little bit. They still don't run the football effectively. The one surprise for me, and again, this is a little bit of an outsider because I don't follow the Lions day in and day out, but I still do obviously pay attention to them because I have to, because I live in Michigan, so that's what happens. But you look at Theo Riddick, who is now the feature back for the Detroit Lions, and Tyon Green is the second guy, and Amir Abdullah, who was their first-round draft pick a couple of years ago and was the starting running back to start the season, clearly in the third position, only got 1 carry for 8 yards, and that's probably the most surprising development, I think, for the Lions over the last couple of weeks is the fact that Amir Abdullah has been surpassed by not only Theo Riddick, but also Tyon Green. And But really a big fall from grace for Amir Abdullah, who was a former first-round draft pick. And when you look at the Lions, how they played against the Bears, it's like I said, they did enough to win. Matthew Stafford was 25 of 33. He was efficient, but he was also sacked 4 times, and he didn't have a great quarterback rating. So you take what you can get. That was kind of a gimme. This is the start of the last 3 games of the season for Detroit that they felt that they should win all of these games, and they'll be having their last 2 now with Aaron Rodgers coming back in that season finale. That's going to throw some question into that last game, but if the Bengals coming up on Christmas Eve, that should be another win for them, as Marvin Lewis has basically said that he will not be returning next year. So before he's able to get fired, he leaves the team, and he'll not be coming back after next season. So they're going to be playing a team in the Bengals that the Bears, that team that they just beat the Bengals 33-7 in Cincinnati. So if you want to take that for what it's worth, the Lions should have an easy time of it in Cincinnati next weekend, which means that they're going to be 9-6 heading into that season finale with the Green Bay Packers. And the NFC playoff picture is still pretty murky. The Lions obviously still in the hunt. They need help. They need Carolina and Atlanta to lose some games, and Atlanta's last 3 games, including tomorrow night, has New Orleans and Carolina, so 2 division rivals, in that last 3 games. And that should be really what the Lions are looking at, because not only do they have to take care of business, but they have to depend on some other teams to help them. So it's still the same situation it was before the Bears game, where the Lions can win out, but if they don't get any help from either Atlanta or Carolina, they're going to be at 10-16 on the outside looking in for the playoffs. So didn't have a lot to grade as far as their performance, because they're playing a team that truthfully isn't very good. So you don't want to get too excited about that. And again, they won that game 20-10 at home. Excuse me, that's a game that really, against a team that was overmatched, you should be able to beat them by 20 points. I mean, that should be a game that really shouldn't be in doubt. And thankfully for Detroit, their defense came to play. Their offense did just enough, and Matthew Stafford was efficient, if not accurate, with his throwing. But again, not a lot of downfield throws, still protecting that injured hand. They don't want him to air it out. But he was also hit 4 times, or sacked 4 times, and hit a couple other times. So despite their best efforts to keep him clean, still got knocked around a little bit. And again, the game plan is going to show it. When you can only throw the ball maybe 15 to 20 yards downfield, and you can't run the football, it does make it a little bit difficult, even for the worst NFL defenses that you'll face, or it doesn't make it that difficult for the NFL defenses that you'll face. So they do the job, do the Lions, and like I said, for the past 3 or 4 weeks now, they're going to need some help, because they're not going to be able to do it on their own, it being get a playoff berth in the NFC.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for the Lions if they want to make the playoffs. They got to hope for the Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons, and even the Dallas Cowboys, not to mention, to lose.
Yeah, and Dallas is winning right now, 17-10, so they need them to fall off. And you're right, there's just so many teams, and when you talk about having to jump that many teams or get that much help, it's difficult, because there's nobody really else to blame but themselves, because they played all those teams this season, with the exception of the Cowboys. You're looking at, they played the NFC South this year. That was their division that they did the crossover with, and they only beat the Buccaneers, and barely at that. So they have nobody to blame but themselves if they were to find themselves out of the playoffs due to a tiebreaker.
Right.
And every excuse that you want to make for them, you didn't beat the teams that were ahead of you, and that's really just plain facts right there. Yeah.
So, Lions and Bengals Sunday at 1 on Fox. I see the Lions winning that one.
If they don't, then they they really don't deserve anything that will be thrown their way. Bengals are right now 5-9. Their only saving grace is they will never be last in the division as long as the Cleveland Browns are as bad as they are. But still, not a good football team, and at 5-9 with some really disappointing disappointing losses in play in the last couple of weeks. I just don't see how the Lions go to Cincinnati and lose that game, knowing that from basically the Thanksgiving Day game on, those were must-win games.
Yeah. So, transitioning to college basketball and the Michigan Wolverines.
For three, yes, sir.
They won 59-52 at the Texas Longhorns. Muhammad Ali Abdul-Rahman was 17 points. Michigan led pretty much the entire game and never let Texas any closer to at least a few points. It was almost an easy game. The Texas Longhorns, kind of a mediocre team. Michigan took advantage.
Yeah, they did just enough. They had a pretty poor offensive showing. They weren't able to shoot the basketball like they normally would. But Texas basically did the same thing. It was a rough game as far as offense went, but both defenses were up to the test, and Michigan went to a hostile environment, even though Texas is not what it once was under the heyday of Rick Barnes. They go to Austin, and they get a road win. And anytime you can get a road win against another Power 5 conference, it makes you feel good. And they were able to keep those feelings going into yesterday's game against U of D at Little Caesars Arena, where they just eviscerated the Titans 90-58. And there wasn't a whole lot of competition in that one, but you're right. The Texas game was a little bit tough for them in the fact that they just couldn't get the offense clicking. And typically for B-line teams, it tends to be the kiss of death when you are unable to get the offense going. But they were able to make do, and the defense did the job. And even though it was a low-scoring game for Michigan standards, they were able to pull out the win, and that's a heartening result because one of the things that they're going to have to be able to do this year, especially with a younger team, is battle some of those nights where they're not shooting the basketball very well, but they're going to have to keep the other team off the board. And they were able to do that against Texas. And I think that was something that will give them confidence here as they get close to the conference season.
Mm-hmm. Also, you got the Michigan State Spartans beating Oakland 86-73 at Little Caesars Arena. Still number 2. What else is new?
Yeah, I think that Oakland played a pretty good game. Oakland gave them what they wanted, and they're a pretty good team. And they play in the Horizon League, which is obviously not a Power 5 conference, but they'll get a bid. And really for Oakland the last couple of years, their downfall has been the conference tournament. They haven't, made it out of their conference tournament. And they haven't been able to build a good enough non-conference resume because teams don't really like to play Oakland, because they are a dangerous team and they don't have a highly regarded conference. So it really, for the other team, they take a hit on their RPI. So a lot of teams don't line up to play Oakland, but Michigan State, being in the state of Michigan, had no problem with it. And they went back and forth for a little bit. The Michigan State, obviously, much more talent than Oakland has, and they were able to exert their will in the last 5 to 10 minutes and pull away, which at one point it was a 3-point game in the second half. So it was a close game. Oakland gave up all they could, and I think Michigan State, really got a little taste of some adversity from a team that they didn't expect to come, and that's always a good thing. When you go into a game expecting to win, and it's a little bit harder than you think it needs to be. And Tom Izzo had a lot of praise for Greg Campy's group. And I think if you see, obviously Michigan State's going to be in the tournament, but if you see Oakland in the tournament, that's going to be a game that you don't really want to play in the first round because they are very dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of basketball, we transition to the professional level, the Pistons.
Left sideline, 3, and he answers.
They get crushed last Tuesday at home against the Denver Nuggets, by the Denver Nuggets, 103-84. in a game in which Boban Marjanovic outscores Andre Drummond again for the third game in a row, 14-5. Their starting players were terrible offensively and defensively again, if you look at the stat sheet. And Stan Van Gundy blamed himself again for that loss. Then they go to Atlanta and face the worst team in the NBA, the Atlanta Hawks, and they beat them. They beat them 105-91. Drummond 12 points and 19 rebounds. Then they go into Indiana and get some redemption. They had to hang on, though, against the Indiana Pacers at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. 104-98 was the final score there. And then they almost blew a lead against the Orlando Magic at a Little Caesars Arena earlier today. 114-110 this past Sunday. They climbed back into a tie for fourth place with those Pacers at 17-13 in the Eastern Conference. They play the Indiana Pacers next week, Tuesday, which is in 9 days from this podcast time here at Little Caesars Arena. But they got the Dallas Mavericks away at American Airlines Center this Wednesday at 8:30, and then they're back home at Little Caesars Arena Friday at 7 against the New York Knicks before the Christmas break. So after that Denver Nuggets blowout loss, Drummond slowly but surely improves. Pistons win 3 straight now, and Boban Marjanovic, as a result, is not played. But their starting five especially has improved as well.
Well, you look at the week. They started off with a very poor effort against the Nuggets, just terrible, not a good effort at all. And I think that was a little bit of a byproduct of them having a rough go of it. They had a 6-game losing streak coming into that game, and the Nuggets, who are a fair to middling team in the West, they're right now 3 games over 500. At the time that they played the Pistons, I believe there were 2 games over 500. And again, you look at the effort that the Pistons gave, it was pretty inexcusable. I know that Stan Van Gundy wanted to take the blame for it, but I mean, at some point, you're professional basketball players, and you got 3 straight games at home. You're not flying anywhere. It was pretty damning of how their overall play had been to come out against the Nuggets, who were on a road trip, and the Pistons, who were in the midst of a homestand. And to play that way was pretty shocking. So they go to Atlanta, and they beat up on the Hawks. I actually listened to that game a little bit on the radio as I was shoveling the multiple snowfalls that we got over the last week. And I was able to listen to a good part of the first half. And the Hawks are a bad team. You have to take advantage of that. That's what the Pistons did. And then they went to Indiana on the second game of a back-to-back and held on. The one thing that the Pistons had been lacking were good starts on both sides of the half. The first and third quarters for them were pretty bad. And if you look at the trends in the quarter scores over this last week, the Pistons reversed that pretty handily. They were very good in the first and third quarters for most of the games this week. If you look at the fourth quarter for the Pistons, that tended to be a problem. And it kind of hampered them. They were unable to kind of put some teams away that they probably should have, especially the Magic today. I think the Pistons ran out of gas a little bit as well. It's their third game in 4 nights, and they got to the fourth quarter and kind of hit a wall, but they were able to hold on and win that game 114-110. But after having a 17-point lead in the first half, it's a little bit closer than you'd like it, but the Pistons will take it. And I think overall for the Pistons, a successful week. And one of the stats I did here, and I kind of have to piece it together just because I don't remember exactly what the numbers were, but the Pistons were the last, I think, before they started their game against Atlanta, their last 7 games were against teams that had a combined record of about 40 games over 500. And the next 7 games, so the Hawks game, the Pacers game, and the Magic game included, their next 4 in those 3 games, they had records combined. I think it was a combined 40 games under 500. So they're definitely playing some of the weaker teams. The Hawks don't really necessarily help the average because they only have 6 wins. But you're looking at the teams that they're playing, and they definitely can get right against some of the lower level teams in the Eastern Conference. Get back to playing some of the basketball they were playing earlier in the season, and hopefully right the ship and I don't think they're going to get to the pinnacle of being second in the East again, but they can hopefully right the ship and get out of 8th or 7th spot and climb their way up the ladder to get a more favorable playoff matchup.
So the Pistons gonna look to continue their winning streak against the Mavericks and Knicks, and then the Pacers with Christmas in between. Switching from basketball to hockey, the Red Wings get 4 points in their previous week. 2 overtime losses to the Florida Panthers and Boston Bruins, both at home. They beat the Toronto Maple Leafs 3-1 Friday night. Trevor Daley with a game-winning shorthanded goal in the second period. Trevor Daley, of all people.
Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, you look at the 2 games before the Red Wings wrapping up their lengthy homestand with a win over the Maple Leafs. But the 2 earlier games in the week, the Panthers, they felt like they deserved a better fate. They didn't get it. And then they blew a third-period lead against the Bruins and ended up losing in overtime. And then playing a really road-weary and tired Maple Leafs team, sans Austin Matthews, they're playing their backup goalie. 5th game in 7 nights, and they're finally able to beat the Maple Leafs 3-1 at home. So you take what you can get, and you can only play the schedule that they give you. And the Maple Leafs came in obviously a little bit banged up, a little bit tired, and the Red Wings, were able to take advantage. But now they head out on the road. They've got a back-to-back on Tuesday and Wednesday, as they'll take on the Islanders, and they'll go play the Flyers
on the road
Wednesday. Yep, and then they visit Boston right before Christmas break, and then they go right back on the road to New Jersey before they finally return home.
The Prudential
for
Center.
2 games right before the new year. So a lot of road games. 4 out of 5 of their next games are on the road. So they're going to have to get back to the grindstone if they want to somehow stay in that wild card race. But just some uneven play, I think, really plagued them in this week. Look at the Bruins game especially. They played good for spurts, but they kind of just fended Boston off until Boston was able to break through, tie the score, and then end up winning the game in overtime. So we'll see how they play at Boston. But they first have the New York Islanders and the slumping Philadelphia Flyers to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Red Wings still 4th worst in the Eastern Conference with 31 points at 12, 13, and 7. That's still maybe bad enough to get Ken Holland out of that front office.
Well, right, and I'm sorry I said slumping Flyers. They were slumping earlier in the year. They actually now have a 6-game winning streak.
I'll take it.
Coming off of a 10-game losing streak. So
I love it.
Previously slumping Flyers, who are now resurgent. But back to your original point, we can sit there and wish for them to get better. We can also wish for them to tank. But the thing is if they don't get any better, Ken Holland has proven that the deals that he's going to make. I mean, you look at last year, what they got for what they sent out, and it wasn't much. It's all about draft picks. And I know that you mentioned on our private Facebook chat, one of the articles, I think it was a radio interview or something that he was quoted as saying that they have to do better in the draft. Well, they've gotten the good draft picks in the last 5 years. They've had decent draft picks as far as the position, and they haven't cashed in. They passed up Jacob Chikrin so they could trade Pavel Datsuk's dead contract and ended up with Dennis Cholowski, who's a Team Canada cut lister. He didn't even make the B squad of Team Canada's World Junior Championships.
You are pathetic!
And then the next year, they bypass guys like Gabe Velarde and Owen Tippett, who is playing in the NHL and actually played against them on Tuesday, and instead picked Michael Rasmussen, who's hurt in the Western Hockey League. He can talk about all he wants about how they have to hit the draft, but he's already proven that he can't. So the more draft picks that he gets, how much is he really going to do with those? That's the question. And I think the answer is not much, but I think it's just one of those smoke screens that he wants to put out there for people, because he'll defend the fact that they're trading guys off so they can get draft picks so they can get better. Meanwhile, they'll get those draft picks and then they'll sign more guys like Trevor Daley, who outside of Friday has been a piss poor investment. So what they really need to do is they need to lose. They need to lose a lot, and not only do they need to do that, but they need to be so desolate that Chris Ilitch looks at this team and says, Ken Howland has had roughly 4 years, if you want to count the 2 years prior, or the 3 years prior to this one, to get the ship righted after Nicholas Lidstrom retired. And he's gone backwards. And I think at this point, if he sees that, the writing's got to be on the wall that, they've got to find somebody else to run the team. And not just Ken Howland. I'm talking about from the top to the bottom to the guys that mop the floor in the locker room. I mean, it's got to be everybody out of this organization, because the way that they do things is so antiquated and not forward thinking at all. And we're back to the same thing where we're just talking about how bad it is with Ken Howland, and it seems like he's the only one that doesn't see it. So we're all actively rooting for them to be bad so they can get better. And that's kind of where we're at with the Red Wings.
Yep, that's the point. That's the main point right there. Speaking of the AHL, the Grand Rapids Griffins, last place in the Central Division, 10-14, 1-3, 1 overtime loss, 3 shootout losses, if anybody is curious, 24 points.
Yeah, I was at the game Saturday, and the one thing that you can point to is if you're the Grand Rapids Griffins is 4 of their 6 top scorers right now aren't playing, and they played a pretty good game against Milwaukee. They ended up losing that game 2-1 in overtime. But when you don't have a lot of guys who are going to score, it's tough. And it doesn't matter what league you're playing in. If you don't have a lot of guys that can finish, it makes it difficult. And the guys that are playing, the Ben Streets, the Tyler Bertuzzi's of the world, they get concentrated on more because they know those are the only guys they really have to guard against, and it's just a compounding set of events where your top scorers are out. That means the other guys that are still around are going to get extra attention paid to them, and it just makes for a tough situation. But like I said, they played really a decent game against a Milwaukee team. It was Grand Rapids' 3rd game in 4 days. They're playing 3 games in 3 nights next week, so it doesn't get any easier for them. But the one thing that it's good for is it gets a lot of young guys that they haven't been able to play because of the other players being there. So guys like Zach Nastasiuk and Lucas Zito, guys that are playing, they weren't playing a lot. Vilius Yarvi, guys that weren't playing a lot, are now getting to play, and I think that's the real key, is because the Calder Cups are cool, they're nice, they're fun to go to, but the name of the game for the Grand Rapids Griffins is development, and they need to play some of those guys so they can develop them and see what they've got. So it's not good for the team because they're losing, but it's good for them because you have younger guys playing that may not be there if everybody's healthy.
So, that's the Red Wings and Griffins. Now we transition to baseball and the Tigers.
That one is long gone.
This one's going very quickly. Tigers traded second baseman Ian Kinsler to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Kinsler is gone. But they get 2 very low-ball prospects, number 20 outfielder Troy Montgomery and number 24 right-handed pitcher Wilkel Hernandez, according to John Heyman.
Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, and we'll talk about this in What's Your Grade, but this one is right down the middle as far as this is a salary dump. When you look at the things that Al Avila is saying about the trade, when you look at what they were being offered, teams know that the Tigers especially under the ownership direction of Chris Ellis, are not looking to spend a lot of money. So any way that they can get them to some help to cut payroll, they will. And the package they got for the Angels was embarrassing. For a guy who, yes, I know he's going to be 36 next year, but didn't have a great year by his standards, but still had some decent numbers. And for $11 million, you're not going to get much better of a deal, even though he's getting older. And to trade him for what amounts to a bag of hammers, really just kind of a slap in the face to a lot of the Tigers fans, because even if you're a realist, you know that they weren't going to be very good. But to give up one of your few players that you can at least sell tickets around for what amounts to nothing was really just kind of a slap in the face, and it just shows that Chris Ilitch, if you read between the lines, is all about making money. He doesn't care about fielding a competitive team. And cutting $11 million from their payroll helps him achieve his goal.
And the Tigers also select outfielder Victor Reyes from the Arizona Diamondbacks, a number 18 prospect, instead of Nick Birdie. That's who Jeff Moss wanted instead of Victor Reyes. Jeff Moss, you can follow him on Twitter, Jeff Moss DSR, the founder and editor-in-chief of the Detroit Sports Rag, by the way, the number one source that the Michigan Sports Truth contributes to.
Well, I get why they picked Victor Reyes in theory, because they could hide him in the outfield, but this team isn't going to be competitive. Why wouldn't you take the best player available? And that, for the ceiling of all of the players, is going to be Nick Birdie. Yeah, he's hurt. He may need Tommy John surgery. But when he was healthy, he was electric out of the bullpen. And if you catch some lightning in a bottle, great. Make that decision down the road. But to pick a gap-hitting, no-power, fourth or fifth outfielder from another team, you could find that guy in your system now. It made no sense. Why even pick him? You've got other guys you can jam in the outfield and do the same thing. But they could have had a Nick Birdie in their bullpen where he doesn't work out, Who the hell cares? They're not going to be any good. So just see what they've got. Instead, they pick a guy who they can stash in the outfield, not play very much, and he's going to fill the same purpose as somebody that they could have just picked up anytime. They didn't need to wait for the Rule 5 draft to get a guy like Victor Reyes. They could have picked him up after spring training, because he most assuredly would have been cut, or maybe even DFA'd off the 40-man roster. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
I know.
And I thought it was I don't want to say it was a terrible move.
No.
But it just didn't make any sense. And it's one of those moves that, again, when you talk about Al Avila, everybody talks about how great he is at finding talent.
He sure didn't do the homework there.
Free agency-wise, he's pretty terrible. Finding guys, little diamonds in the rough or whatever, people still think his talent evaluation is pretty good. I don't see how Victor Reyes is more valuable to a team that isn't expected to do squat this year over Nick Birdie. That's really what my point is I'm not against Victor Reyes. I'm just saying that you can find him anywhere. He's a gap-hitting, low-power center fielder, and you can find those guys anywhere, especially for a team that is trying to save money like the Tigers. Those guys are a dime a dozen. But Nick Birdie, when he's healthy, those aren't guys you can just find on the shelf. Guys that have 90-plus sliders when they're healthy and 97-plus fastball when they're healthy.
It kind of reminds me. Yep.
I was going to say, they could have taken a chance on him if his arm blows out. Oh, well, you lose nothing. This is a player that you're getting for free.
Yeah, and that's almost like Joel Zumaya when the Tigers had him. He was very valuable.
Yeah, when he was healthy, he was valuable. When he wasn't, he wasn't. But that was a different situation. They were in a competitive mode back then. This team is not in a competitive mode, and that's the thing that when you talk about even the Red Wings, these Chris Ilitch owned teams. Oh, we want to be competitive, so we'll go sign a Trevor Daley, but we'll trade away Ian Kinsler. Well, okay, if you're trying to be more competitive, you would think that you'd want to get guys that can play. So right now, you went from Ian Kinsler to Dixon Machado at second base, and you want to be competitive in the NHL, but you don't call up any of your guys that are playing in Grand Rapids to see if they can hack it. I mean, they talk out of both sides of their mouth, and both Ken Howland and Al Avila really just, at this point,
Oh, yeah.
I've lost a lot of confidence in them because Al Avila probably to a much lesser degree than Howland, but Chris Ilitch is telling them what to do, and they're doing it. Why? Because they want to get a paycheck, and I understand that. But Chris Ilitch letting Ken Howland run his team with unfettered access, and then he's telling Al Avila what to do on the baseball side. Come on. Should be the other way around right now, because it's pretty obvious which way both of those teams are trending. Yeah, the Tigers are down, but with baseball, they had a clear rebuilding plan. They traded all of their marketable stars, except for Miguel Cabrera, for prospects, and they have a clear direction. It just baffles me that they would make these types of choices right after they trade Ian Kinsler. Well, we're going to trade our best, probably our second best player, but in the Rule 5 draft, which is basically a grab bag, we could have gotten a really good reliever, which we need. But instead, we'll just go with a fourth or fifth outfielder guy that we could have picked up at any time.
Yep. Al Avila is still not addressing the bullpen. He and Ken Holland have been very bad as of late. And Chris Ilitch, that just shows why in totality Chris Ilitch has very little or no passion whatsoever in the Tigers or the Red Wings. So, that said, it is time for the What's Your Grade segment.
Pencils down, everyone. It's time to find out what's your grade.
Buck, I'm going to let you go first on both of those two events. Number one, the Tigers trading Ian Kinsler to the Angels, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, for Montgomery and Hernandez. Buck, go.
C-. I felt that they needed to trade Ian Kinsler because why not? But they traded him when his value was probably at the lowest. Now they have a no-trade contract that they had to kind of dance around, and they were able to get him to waive. But still, they could have traded him when his value was higher. They needed to trade him, but to trade him for and get the return they did, which was basically nothing, is embarrassing. They could have gotten at least a 40-man roster player. Somebody that they could use, but instead they get the 20th and 24th ranked prospects out of an organization that is not known for its farm system prowess. Come on. Like I said, you basically got a bag of hammers for Ian Kinsler so Chris Ilitch could save $11 million. So C- because they needed to do it, but really poor return.
Uh-huh. And then the other event, the Tigers selecting Victor Reyes from the Diamondbacks in the Rule 5 draft. Buck, what's your grade on that?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a D on this one. He's not bad. People are high on him, but again, it's just like I mentioned, you can get him anytime. And if you don't get him, there's other guys that are just like him. I don't see what they saw in Victor Reyes that they didn't see in anybody else. So now, instead of taking a wild stab on a bullpen guy that may or may not work out, because it really doesn't matter this year, they pick a guy who's the safe pick, who they can leave on the roster all season, and not have to play him a lot. Why wouldn't you bring a player up from your minor? I mean, like a Kristen Stewart. Just let him play. It doesn't matter. They're not going to be any good. I'm just going to say a D because it's not enough because he's got some redeeming qualities, but the whole move and the reason behind it doesn't make any sense.
Speaking of Chris Ilitch, there was an article that I'd like to touch on real quick, written by Jeff Moss of the DSR. He compared the Tigers' signings and tradings of Verlander, Upton, Martinez, and Wilson, the Dabrowski tradings of Cespedes, Price, and Joakim Soria. He compared them to the Red Wings, I don't think they even talked about the Red Wings payrolls, just the Tigers actually. But this Jeff Moss also touched on what he wanted: Lorenzo Cain, JD Martinez, Alex Cobb, and Alex Avila. And he also took a screenshot of the Tigers' payrolls, 25-man opening day payrolls, 40-man payrolls. Buck, what say you about this? I'm pretty sure you read this whole thing.
Yeah, I did read it. I mean, it's interesting reading. I think there's some things in there that make a lot of sense. I think that in 2015, Dave Dombrowski was given a mandate that he went against because I think that he kind of cemented the fact that he was going to get fired by having a fire sale in that year, because had they kept guys like Cespedes, David Price, and Soria and added pieces, they probably would have been able to sell it as they were going for another playoff berth. Instead, he traded them all. He got fired for it. And right after they made that trade, or those trades, Ilitch went right back to the well and got guys like Jordan Zimmerman, Mike Pelfrey, Mark Lowe, and Justin Upton. Zimmerman, Pelfrey, and Lowe all busts, and Justin Upton is kind of an incomplete because they traded him. But they were trying to put a competitive team on the field. And once he fell ill, Mike Ilitch, and really kind of lost control of the team to his son, you can obviously see the difference in pattern. I mean, trading Justin Upton in the team opt-out year, only 2 years after they got him, the latest trade with Ian Kinsler, it's quite apparent that all they're trying to do is cut payroll. And even though they couldn't give away Justin Verlander for nothing, you would think that the returns they got for guys like Justin Verlander could have been better. JD Martinez almost certainly could have been better. Their best return, really, as far as the near future is concerned, was the Justin Wilson-Alex Avila trade to the Cubs. And those are the worst guys that they traded. So it's just unfathomable that 2 years ago they were trying to sign guys and still field a competitive team in the AL Central. And we're at the stage now where they're just basically anything that's not nailed down is being traded. So it's just a sad state of affairs, and it really just makes you think, if you're a real baseball fan, how would you go out and support that team? Why would you? There's no reason to go. If you look at their lineup, it's going to be terrible, awful.
Yeah, and
Eduardo, and they've got a lot of good pitchers coming up. I mean, they've got 6 or 7 pitchers, including the first round draft pick they have this year, the first pick this year, because they were so terrible. They've got 6 or 7 pitchers, maybe even one more, that are going to be coming up in the next 3 to 4 years that are actually going to be really, project to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about, stunting the growth of prospects. They don't have any. They don't have anybody they can stunt growth with because their farm system is bereft of talent. So instead of throwing some money at guys that admittedly wouldn't bring home a World Series title, but at least would make your team interesting without going over the luxury tax threshold and make it easier for you to sell some seats, Chris Ilitch has gone with the scorched earth approach and just getting rid of, like I said, getting rid of everything that's not nailed down and doing it just so he can save money. That's it. It's the only reason. There's no other possible explanation. You can't tell me that trading Ian Kinsler, who, yes, he's in the twilight of his career, but for what amounts to 2 random guys that you could have found anywhere, you can't tell me that's a baseball move. It's just not. It's insulting to anybody that watches baseball or is familiar with the game that you're telling me that's a baseball move to get 2 guys that probably won't pan out. Jeff in his article details a plan that he had as far as saying the guys that you mentioned, Kane, Cobb, Avila, and getting J.D. Martinez back. They would have put some butts in some seats. They would have been okay. And, you're talking about a league that this year, 85-win teams got into the playoffs. You don't have to be that good to get into the playoffs. They have a swing at the kick of the can. But instead, they're going to go with, let's try to lose as many games as we can because it really is not going to matter because we're going to save a bunch of money. And, I just don't, it just doesn't make any sense. You can field a decent team without breaking the bank, and you can still save a lot of money over the payroll that you started with last year, which was over $200 million.
Speaking of Village, by the way, to the audience out there, if they have a grade for each of those 2 events, as I mentioned earlier, post them in the comment bank in this episode, and please don't go out of line. Speaking of Village, there was another article from HollandSentinel.com written by Chris Zadarozny, headlining Ilitch needs to right dad's wrongs with retired numbers, such as Sergei Fedorov, Brendan Shanahan, etc. But he also mentioned Larry Ari in there, because his number was unretired by Mike Ilitch, and he's not even he never even reached the Hall of Fame.
Well,
Lou Whitaker as well.
You talk about looking at the Tigers, and the only time that they have retired numbers, basically, is when guys hit the Hall of Fame. So Alan Trammell and Jack Morris, the 3 and the 47 will be taken out of circulation, but you have a guy like Sergei Fedorov. Excuse me. The Brendan Shanahan's a little bit different because he played for a long time for a lot of other, for a couple other organizations. And
he was a major goal scorer for the Red Wings.
Yeah, he played.
That was why he was my favorite player of all time, by the way. My favorite Red Wing of all time.
Well, and he was a great Red Wing, but you got to remember, you look at his career. He played for St. Louis, and he went to New Jersey, and then he went to Hartford. Then he came to Detroit. So Detroit was the 4th stop on his NHL tour, and he was a great Red Wing. He did a lot of good things for them, but I just don't know if you want to retire his number for what amounted to less than half of his career. That said, Sergei Fedorov definitely. It's ludicrous that his number isn't retired. Just insane how his number isn't retired. And
because of the Ilitches.
And the well-documented now reasons why that is, but it's insane for his number murdered somebody. He didn't do something where he got thrown. I mean, literally, it just makes no sense that the franchise's arguably second best player doesn't have his jersey retired. It boggles the mind. And there's a lot of good points made in here by the writer. Like I said, I don't agree with everything, but when you make good arguments, it makes it a good read. So it makes sense for the Illich family to retire certain numbers because you're looking at guys like Sergei Fedorov on the Red Wings side and Lou Whitaker for the Tigers. How that guy is in the Hall of Fame, I'll never know. But just because they're not in the Hall of Fame, or in Fedorov's case, just because he left on a bad note because you didn't like the fact that he held out in 1998, it's just stupid. Unless you're doing something that disgraces the team, your number should get retired if you're one of the best to play the game for the team, and that's definitely Sergei Fedorov and Lou Whitaker both.
Yep, the top two. But don't forget Larry Ari.
Yeah, I mean, that's the number that was kind of like the Konstantinov number 16 now, is nobody takes it. It wasn't necessarily...
By the way, Larry Ari wore number 6 as opposed to Konstantinov's number 16.
Yeah, I mean, he unretired it because he wasn't in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
It's like, I mean, really? He didn't make the Hall of Fame, so I'm going to unretire it. Well, nobody's ever... I don't remember anybody wearing 6 at all, ever. So that's kind of the funny bit about that is he unretired it and then nobody uses it. I don't remember any number 6s for Detroit off the top of my head. I've watched them for a long time.
Well, a very cold case to crack on Larry Ari's part. So that's pretty much all we need to talk about. So that's episode 295 of the Week in Review on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iHeart, and iHeart Radio. Before we sign off, we want to remind everyone to share this episode and our entire podcast on social media and have their friends share that as well, because we want to tell them that the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast is boosting its posts of each episode on its Facebook page and searching for a wider local audience that is fans of sports. So please spread the word about the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast and its Facebook page. Buck, as always, each week, excellent job. We'll talk to you on episode 296.
Yes, sir.
I'm Taylor Phillips. Follow me on Twitter at DT2Phillips and Buck Geno on Twitter at BuckGeno3rd. Like and share the Michigan Sports Truth Facebook page. We'll talk to you next week on episode 296. Thanks very much for listening, downloading, and sharing TTFN. Ta-ta for now.
Bon appétit.
Mission complete.